There is a task you actually want to do, not a chore, something you chose. Maybe it is the book you want to write, the gym membership you paid for, the message you have been meaning to send for 3 weeks. You want it, and still, somehow, you are not doing it. If you have ever asked yourself why you sabotage the things you care about most, this video is the answer. And I want to say this early. It is not laziness, and it is not a time management problem. Every study of the last 20 years points somewhere else entirely. Let us start by killing the most popular explanation. For decades, procrastination was treated as a scheduling failure, bad planning, poor discipline. So the fix was always the same. Another app, another planner, another 5 in the morning routine. And you have probably noticed that none of it lasted. Here's why. Researchers ran the obvious test. If procrastination were a planning problem, then better plans would fix it. They do not. People who procrastinate often have excellent plans. Detailed ones, color-coded ones. What they do not have is the willingness to start. So what is actually happening? In 2013, researchers Sirois and Pychyl published a paper that reframed the entire field. Their conclusion was simple and uncomfortable. Procrastination is not a time problem. It is an emotion regulation problem. You are not avoiding the task. You are avoiding how the task makes you feel. Boredom, anxiety, self-doubt, resentment. The task carries an emotion, and your brain does what brains do with unpleasant emotions. It moves away from them. And now the cruel twist, the one that explains why this hits hardest on the things you love. The more you care about something, the more emotion it carries. A task you are indifferent about threatens nothing. But the novel you want to write? That one carries your identity. If you try and it is bad, you learn something about yourself you would rather not know. So your brain protects you with the only strategy that guarantees you never find out. Delay. As long as you have not started, you are still someone who could. This is why procrastination feels so much worse than ordinary rest. Watching a film on a Sunday is rest. Scrolling for 4 hours while a deadline burns is not rest, and your body knows it. You get the tiredness of work with none of the progress. Researchers call it the procrastination doom loop. You avoid the task, you feel guilty. Guilt makes the task feel heavier. The heavier task is harder to start, so you avoid it again. Each lap makes the next lap worse. The task did not grow. The feeling around it did. Before the tools, there is one more mechanism you need, and it is the strangest finding in this whole field. In 2009, a neuroscientist named Hal Hershfield put people in a brain scanner and asked them to think about themselves today, then about themselves in 10 years. When they thought about their present self, one pattern lit up. When they thought about their future self, the pattern shifted, and it looked closer to how the brain responds to a stranger. Read that again. To your brain, future you is not entirely you. Which means when you hand a task to tomorrow, you are not delaying. You are delegating to someone else. And that explains the generosity we all show to tomorrow. Tomorrow you will wake up early. Tomorrow you will start the diet, the chapter, the difficult conversation. It feels reasonable because you are not the one paying. Hershfield found something else too. The more vividly people could picture their future self, the more they acted in that person's interest. Not with more discipline, with more familiarity. So when you catch yourself saying tomorrow, try naming who tomorrow actually is. Tomorrow morning me, tired, with the same inbox, and no extra hours. There is one more trap worth naming, because it wears a respectable mask. Perfectionism. It looks like high standards. It behaves like avoidance. If the only acceptable version is flawless, then starting guarantees failure, because a first attempt is never flawless. So the perfectionist waits for the right conditions, the right mood, the right amount of time. Those conditions never arrive, and the waiting gets called planning. Research consistently ties one flavor of perfectionism, the kind driven by fear of judgment, to higher procrastination. Not higher output, higher delay. Which brings us to the first tool, and it is the one people refuse to believe. Self-forgiveness. In 2010, researchers at Carleton University followed students through exams. Those who forgave themselves for procrastinating before the first exam procrastinated significantly less before the next one. Read that again. Forgiveness reduced the behavior. Because guilt was never the fuel for action. Guilt was the weight that made starting harder. Drop the weight, and starting gets cheaper. Tool 2. Name the feeling, not the task. Do not write. Work on report. Write, I am avoiding this because I am afraid it will be mediocre. When you label an emotion, activity in your threat system measurably drops. This is the same mechanism behind naming any fear. The task was never the monster. The feeling was. And feelings shrink the moment they are named out loud. Tool 3. Make the first step embarrassingly small. Not write the chapter. Open the document and type one bad sentence. Not go to the gym. Put the shoes on. This works because your brain is not resisting the work. It is resisting the emotional weight of the whole project, and a single sentence carries almost none of it. Once you are moving, the resistance collapses because the thing you feared was starting, not doing. Tool 4. Decide when and where in advance. Psychologist Peter Gollwitzer calls these implementation intentions. Instead of I will work on it tomorrow, you write, at 9 in the morning, at the kitchen table, I will open the document. Studies across hundreds of experiments show this simple format sharply raises follow-through. The reason is mechanical. In the moment, deciding costs energy you will not have. Deciding in advance means the future you only has to show up. So here is the whole thing in one line. You are not lazy. You are protecting yourself from a feeling, and the protection costs more than the feeling ever would. Forgive the delay, name the fear, shrink the first step, and decide when and where. Then let the work be bad, because bad and finished always beats perfect and imagined. If this explains something you have been carrying for years, subscribe. This channel takes the strangest things your mind does and makes them make sense. And if you want more, the Brain File series on the channel covers what your brain does when you finally stop working. I will see you there.